Hello again, I'm Mr. Mayor, and I'm going to tell you about five more of the Rebecca Caudill books. And I want to be quick. I'm going to try to do this five books in about 6.5 minutes. First book is called Nightbooks, and if you like scary books, take this one out. It's about a kid named Alex who is obsessed with everything scary. He loves scary books, he loves scary movies, and he loves reading and writing scary stories. And his kind of love for everything kind of creepy kind of makes him a little bit of a weirdo, and people start making fun of him because of his obsession with creepy, scary things. So one night he decides, you know what? I got to stop it. I'm going to take all of my scary stories and I'm just going to take them down to the furnace in my apartment and burn them all. But when he's on his way to do that, he comes across this room that he's never seen in his apartment complex. And he feels drawn into the room. And when he gets into that room, he meets what becomes a witch named Natasha. And Natasha takes him captive. And he is only spared his life if he tells scary stories to Natasha, because Natasha likes scary stories. And the problem is that Alex starts thinking, what if I run out of scary stories? What's going to happen to me? There's somebody else that is also captured by Natasha, and they have to find out how to escape. So it's a little bit of a Hansel and Gretel story, but kind of spooky as well. The next book is another scary one. It's called Spirit Hunters, and it's about a 12-year-old girl named Harper who moves into a new house in Washington, D.C., and the first friend she meets is kind of a neighbor and says, "Oh, you moved into that house? That house is haunted." And Harper kind of says, "Yeah, right. I don't believe in all that kind of stuff." Before they moved, Harper lived in New York City. And when she was a young girl, she survived a fire at her old house and kind of this traumatizing illness that she just kind of blocks out of her head. She doesn't want to remember any of that horrible stuff. So Harper is living in this house, and Harper's little brother starts acting strange. And Harper's little brother starts talking about this new friend that he can talk to and can see. And the more this new friend is around, Harper's brother starts acting more weird, and it becomes creepier and creepier. And as the story goes on, Harper starts remembering a little bit more about what happened and maybe what that fire was and what this illness was in her past. And she starts uncovering some crazy, crazy stuff. Another kind of scary one, you might not want to read this at night because it might spook you a little bit. The last one on the Caudill book that is a little bit scary is called Small Spaces. This is about a girl named Ollie. And on her way home from school one day, she happens across this woman who seems to be crazy. And this woman's trying to throw a book into the water, and Ollie doesn't think. She just acts, stealing the book and running away. And that night she begins reading the story of this book, and she discovers this chilling story about a girl named Beth and a set of brothers that both loved Beth, and this strange deal made with the smiling man. And it's just kind of a weird, creepy story. Well, the next day, there's a field trip to Smoke Hollow, a local farm with kind of a little haunted history of its own. And she stumbles upon a couple graves at this farm that have the names of the very people she had been reading about. So was that story about the smiling man true? So she's wondering about that. And all of a sudden, the bus breaks down. And the strange bus driver just can't get the bus to work. And so they have to spend the night at the farm, this scary farm. And the bus driver says, "Best get moving. At nightfall, they'll come for the rest of you." So Ollie has to figure out what the heck is going on and survive the night. The next book I want to talk to you about is called Sweep, the story of a girl and her monster. Now, it might sound like kind of a scary story, but it's not. It takes place in London a long time ago when there were climbing boys. They were orphans that were owned by chimney sweeps. So these little boys would climb down the chimneys to clean them. And, it was terrible work. It was dirty. It was not healthy. but these little boys could climb in down there and clean the chimneys real well. Well, Nan is a girl, and she's quite possibly the best climber who ever lived. But she has to disguise herself because girls can't do that job. But one day when Nan gets stuck in one of the chimneys and there's a fire, she fears her time has come. But then she wakes up in this abandoned attic and she's not alone. Huddled in a corner is a mysterious creature, a golem. So a golem is made from ash and coal, and it's kind of their stories about golems. So it's a bit of a fantasy story. I loved this book. I didn't think I would, but I really liked it. A great story of friendship and just kind of how two outcasts come together saving one another. And then the last book I'm going to talk to you about today is called The Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. This is about a girl who is struck by lightning. And when she's struck by lightning, she's given almost kind of superpower, super smarts. She becomes a math genius. But there's also, she develops some kind of OCD tendencies. You know, if she doesn't, she has rituals that revolve around the number 3. And if she doesn't perform them, her brain just kind of overreacts and she doesn't know what to do. So 12-year-old Lucy, she's been homeschooled by her grandmother since she was 8. And, you know, she's almost ready for college because she's so smart. But her grandmother says, before any of that, I'm making you go to middle school. You have to survive middle school. You have to make a new friend. You have to try a new activity. And you have to read a book that isn't about math. Well, that's a huge task for Lucy. And it's kind of this great story about, again, fitting in where you don't really feel like you do and figuring out who you are along the way. All right, I went 7 minutes, but I hope you pick up these books. If you have any questions, let me know.